Hello, and welcome to Selling Sheet Music, a podcast created to help composers, arrangers, and songwriters learn the ins and outs of self-publishing sheet music. I'm your host, Garrett, and today I'm joined by Scott Harris, the program director for Hal Leonard's ArrangeMe.com, a self-publishing platform used by more than 40,000 independent music publishers, including myself. We spoke in the beginning of July after the migration from S&P Press and the transition to the new ArrangeMe website was officially completed. Our conversation covers a lot of ground, including how to get the most out of the platform, ideas for establishing yourself as an independent publishing company, setting expectations and evaluating success, and how the ArrangeMe program supports songwriters. Scott's position at Hal Leonard gives him a unique vantage point for understanding the sheet music industry as a whole, and self-publishing in particular, and I think you'll really enjoy getting to know him and hearing what he has to say. ArrangeMe.com gives you free access to over 4 million copyrighted titles, allowing you to easily and legally publish your arrangements. And your works will be distributed by the world's most popular sheet music retailers. ArrangeMe users have already earned over $5 million in commissions. Join the world's largest self-publishing community at ArrangeMe.com today. Well, why don't we start by you just giving quickly an overview of the ArrangeMe program and all of the different brands and the different websites that are involved.
Yeah, absolutely, Garrett. ArrangeMe is the self-publishing platform owned and operated by Hal Leonard. We are an aggregator. You can't buy anything from ArrangeMe, as you know, but arrangers and composers put their sheet music up through our service, and it gets published out to sheetmusicdirect.com and sheetmusicplus.com as digital assets. And we also have a partner called Noteflight, which is another Hal Leonard company. They are primarily targeted to education more and more, but they have this really kind of great little music editor, and you can use that to publish similarly composition or arrangement of a copyrighted song through the ArrangeMe platform. And then it goes to Sheet Music Direct, Sheet Music Plus, and also the Noteflight marketplace, which is sort of their community of sellers and consumers. Those are interactive files which you can transpose and manipulate and download and make your own, kind of a cool service there too. So they are integrated with the ArrangeMe platform as well. But primarily the big services is getting your stuff published to Sheet Music Direct and Sheet Music Plus.
What's your day-to-day like as program director? What does that job look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. Kind of every day is a little different. We have a lot of users, tens of thousands of users. So every day there's somebody needs something, something's going wrong or they can't figure something out. We've got a pretty robust customer service email service that we're into every day. I work with our development team, which is kind of your tech IT folks that are sort of running the site. Spend some time kind of thinking high level, 30,000 feet, kind of where we are and where we're going. So I'm way up there and I'm way down in the weeds with customer service and sort of tactical issues. So I'm sort of everywhere in between, man. I've got marketing meetings and vision meetings. And this week I'm meeting with our CEO, Larry Morton, about a bigger picture type of approach. So it's a lot. It's very diverse and it keeps me on my toes. And I've been in this business 20 years and it really feels like, this is the bleeding cutting edge of this business as far as like sheet music publication. So I got my start as a young editor right out of college on Music Row as like a traditional print editor. So it's been a journey to get here and I feel pretty uniquely qualified to run this business.
What's the rest of the staff look like? Because I know obviously you live in Nashville. The ArrangeMe website says you're headquartered in Milwaukee. So where is everybody?
Yeah, the ArrangeMe website is headquartered in Milwaukee because it's owned by Hal Leonard. That's the corporate, mothership headquarters out of Milwaukee there. I live in Nashville. And so when I got hired, I was like, I'd love to do this job if it's a remote gig, but if you want me to come to Milwaukee, that's not going to happen. So it worked out for me to, stay here and our life is here. My wife and kids are here and, all that. And so Ella is in Minneapolis. She lives up there and that's really the ArrangeMe staff. It's just she and me. And then Helena Taylor lives in New York. She's a part-time customer service specialist that helps us out off hours. Honestly, it's not just us. We don't run the site really, like logistically. It's the Hal Leonard team on the back end. So we have the enormous advantage really to leverage, a lot of the marketing team, a lot of the development team, IT, web hosting, all of that major machine that Hal Leonard is. We have the advantage of kind of plugging into that.
Now, this is a bit of a tangent, but I know that you are quite the arranger and composer yourself. And I'm just wondering what it's been like for you to kind of go over to the dark side, if you will, and transition from being a composer and a creator into more of an administrative or a business role.
It's not a departure, really. I mean, I got my start on Music Row as an editor in this business. So I've been on the business side of it for a long time. I went to Belmont University, was lucky enough to get a editor job with Warner Music Group, a company called Word Music back then, and Choral Print. So I've done the A&R job for a long time, artist and repertoire, arranger and repertoire job. So managing creative talent for a long time. I spent about 7 or 8 years as a freelance arranger and orchestrator, kind of tried my hand out and was able to survive for a long time doing that. Just strictly creative, everything from orchestrating to editorial to just finale work, transcription, all that stuff. So you can imagine in Nashville, there's a good bit of work there in that world. And then I got recruited to run publishing for the Barbershop Harmony Society back in 2015. So I did that for 5 years before I got here. So in many ways, I've been on this business side for a long time. COVID kind of struck that job down. Singers, barbershoppers specifically, they sing and they gather, and you couldn't do either of those things for 2 years. So I was part of a pretty massive layoff there. And then I managed the Hal Leonard account when I was there because they've got a distribution deal. And so knew a lot of people there, and it was a really good fit. They were looking for the ArrangeMe program director and applied, and it worked out great. I've been there just over a year now. So I feel uniquely qualified to do this. And it doesn't seem like I've gone over to the dark side. I've done this a long time, but also to your point, I mean, I've been an arranger and orchestrator, as long as I can remember. And I understand what that means and what it's like to be alone and, kind of chasing after every nickel and dime. It feels good to be able to provide this opportunity for, people that are, sort of doing it on their own, like you, man. And I'm just lucky enough to be able to see everybody that's doing it.
Is there anything you wish composers knew about what goes on in the corporate mothership, as you put it?
Nothing's ever easy, so I've made requests for features or for fixes on the website that just seem like they would be super simple fixes. Just copy and paste this code and put it over there. Well, it is never, ever, ever that easy. Developers will just laugh because of all the massive code, and it's been built on legacy systems and, internal programming and database systems that you fix one thing or change one thing, and then the downstream effects of that are enormous. The ripple effect is incredible. And so people put on the Facebook group or whatever, like, let's just do this and this. Well, there's no just do anything. It's always a pretty massive lift to be able to get something fixed or done most of the time. And then when something, I think will take a long time or be super complicated, every once in a while, they're like, oh yeah, we can do that. And it's done in 2 minutes, so I can never tell. There's a lot of people that touch this stuff, and it's a living, breathing thing, this website. Things happen that on one website that doesn't happen on the other because they're totally independent, meaning Sheet Music Direct is its own thing and Sheet Music Plus is its own thing, and we publish to both. So sometimes something affects both, or sometimes it's just one problem with one side or the other. It gets complicated real quick with multiple retailers. So
could you talk maybe about the difference between those two sites? And I guess why are there two sites? Is there a specific customer you're targeting, or is it just, the way the system's developed organically?
Sheet Music Direct was the very first digital sheet music publisher in the world. A lot of people don't know that. Hal Leonard started it internally in 1997. And this predates iTunes Music Store. It predates, all the other digital sheet music websites out there. So I guess the biggest thing about Sheet Music Direct is that it's 100% Hal Leonard controlled and operated from day one, which if you're an ArrangeMe user is kind of the short answer of why your chart gets published to Sheet Music Direct the fastest. It's typically within an hour or so. And then Sheet Music Plus still takes about a day or so. And that's because sheetmusicplus.com was a totally independent company, started, I don't know, maybe it was 15 years ago or something, but they're out in San Francisco. So that's another place where people are. They're headquartered in San Francisco. And then Hal Leonard acquired Sheet Music Plus. And then with it came this program, the SMP Press program / ArrangeMe program, which now has evolved into just ArrangeMe.com. And so Sheet Music Plus is mostly like a Amazon for sheet music, like physical goods. And Sheet Music Direct is just digital only, because Hal Leonard, as most people know, they sell physical goods through J.W. Pepper, a lot of different physical outlets for Hal Leonard, whereas Sheet Music Direct is the digital retail space for them primarily.
Yeah, well, and I think that's an interesting point to bring up too, because if you look at the Hal Leonard titles, look at Roger Emerson. I mean, you can find his stuff everywhere, and I think there's a model to follow there for the users of ArrangeMe. You've got it on Sheet Music Direct, Sheet Music Plus. You can put it on your own website. You can kind of just blanket the market.
A lot of people thought, sheetmusicplus.com was just going away. It's like, no. So SMP and SMD are two different sites. They've got different customer bases. They happen to reach millions of people worldwide, but they're different, and there's some overlap customers for sure. I mean, when you type in the song you're looking for in Google, it'll come up one place or another. I think the point is those sites are different enough where having your stuff published through both is a big deal. It broadens your reach to just that much more.
Well, and I've just observed with my own titles that you get a lot of benefit from having a product with your name on it on these really big websites. Even if you just search Garrett Breeze, titles will pop up from one of those sites, and I have no idea how it decides which one to bring up. But
who knows? Yeah.
But it definitely has a big effect on your digital footprint.
100%, man. And you have the advantage of having a pretty unique name, Garrett Breeze, where Scott Harris is not necessarily a unique name. And my goodness, in the music business, there's 3 or 4 Scott Harrises that I know of, or like, Jim Smith or whatever. Like, how does that guy get? Well, if you're on ArrangeMe, you're going to get at least analysis from Google for your sheet music, I guess is the point. So I don't know how that works either.
Do you think there's any benefit to using like a publisher name versus your own name on ArrangeMe?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point, Garrett. I think there is, honestly, like, especially as you get more and more titles into the marketplace, I think it makes sense to brand yourself, especially if you've got a specific thing that you do, in your case, choral. I think it is advantageous, it sets you apart. And that way, if you really went all the way, and I'm talking about bigger picture from just ArrangeMe, but if you set up a publishing company with like BMI or CSAC or ASCAP, then you can all of a sudden start publishing other people, other arrangers under your publishing company. For most people, it's just them. And having a publishing company name, I think, is advantageous. Most of our top sellers typically, I'd say probably 60-70% have a different name other than their own personal name in that publisher name space when they register. And I think it's a level of professionalism. It shows that, you're serious. And if you do, go ahead and register it with BMI or ASCAP. Hope for good things. Who knows where that takes you?
Well, let's kind of do a lightning round, if you will, and go through just some of the program basics and some of the most common questions.
Yeah, you bet.
So let's start with the money. How much do you earn when you publish through ArrangeMe? What's the royalty rate?
Yeah, so if you do an arrangement of a copyrighted song, that's a third-party copyright, not public domain, not original, somebody else's song that is on our song search, you get 10%. And then we pay 50%, 50, on public domain arrangements and original compositions. So half.
And how does all the copyright work?
Yeah, so thankfully I don't do this, but we just surpassed 4 million pre-licensed copyrighted songs. And so all that's pre-licensed based on, Hal Leonard's publishing relationships. That's why it's all pre-cleared. It's our license department. I'm not out there, making licensing deals. And that's, again, the other advantage of being owned and operated by Hal Leonard is leveraging all of those publishing relationships as well.
Are there any other restrictions or guidelines for what you can do or can't do?
Yeah, I mean, if you pretty much have a full license to do an arrangement of that song, whatever arrangement you want. The only stipulation is that, first of all, that it's commercially available, that you're not using this to skirt the custom license process. So, let's say that you get commissioned to write an arrangement for the Blue Crab Sonata that was written by Garrett Breeze. If that commission has any sort of exclusivity involved in it, where it is not meant to be available to the general consuming public, then you've got to go through the custom licensing service. You can't use ArrangeMe to do that arrangement. And also, you can't change the lyrics of the original. So you can't put it in like a different language. Technically, that's considered a different license. You have to secure, again, a custom license to be able to change the language. But other than that, it's pretty much wide open. You can do arrangement, everything from full orchestra and choir all the way down to, a simple piano arrangement or a simple, single instrument. It's whatever you want to do. And we've got space for all of it.
Now, what about the copyright for original songs or compositions that you submit? Do you get to keep control of that?
100%. At that point, it becomes basically a straight up distribution deal. You retain all the ownership permissions and all the things that you are granted as the copyright holder. You're just sort of entering into a distribution relationship with Hal Leonard and ArrangeMe that says, we can sell this chart on your behalf, and we'll pay you the industry rate, 50% of any sale. And what you're doing is you're paying that 50% for the massive reach that you wouldn't get from your own personal website.
Are you tied down to a specific length of time when you publish something?
You mean when you publish something through ArrangeMe?
Yeah, like if I write an original song and I put it up on ArrangeMe and then I also submit it to a publisher and they want to do an exclusive deal, can I take it down, or am I locked into a certain period or anything like that?
Yeah, no, ArrangeMe is non-exclusive, which basically means you put it up for self-publishing and you're absolutely allowed to pursue publication other places. In fact, why not? Unless that other publisher, if you find another publisher that wants to make it exclusive, yes, you may take it down. Typically, that doesn't happen. Most people these days will offer you a non-exclusive publishing deal if you get something, published through their company. But yes, especially if it's a composition or arrangement of a PD song, it's yours. You can take it down anytime you want.
And what about pricing? How is that determined?
Yeah, so we have a floor of $1.99 for public domain and original stuff that you own the copyright for. There's no minimums for that stuff based on ensemble. Now, the copyrighted arrangements, we do have of tiers sort of based on the ensemble. Hal Leonard's done this a long time. They know exactly what things are worth. We want to, try to avoid a race to the bottom, people selling, jazz band charts for a penny, that kind of thing. So large ensemble typically is a minimum of $49.99 when you're talking about orchestrations, marching band, 8 players and more is our definition of large ensemble, quote unquote. And then small ensemble stuff, quartets, quintets, that sort of thing. The minimums are $12.99, and anything like piano related, like a piano vocal chart, is a $4.99 minimum, which is all, industry standard. Any music retailer is going to have it line up by and large with those minimums. And we let the arranger, you as the user, pick what your price is, so if you feel like your brass quintet charts are great, then, charge $16.99. You don't have to charge $12.99. You charge whatever you feel like the market will bear. And that's capitalism, right? Something's worth as much as someone's willing to pay for it.
So if I'm a songwriter, is there any way for me to get my music added to the ArrangeMe list so my fans can do their own arrangements of my songs?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, I suppose. You would just write into our licensing team, halleonard.com/licensing. I've dealt with this from certain artists that have contacted us, directly and said, hey, I manage my own catalog. How do I do this? And I tend to just kind of send them to our licensing department. And then they kind of make a decision, honestly. Hal Leonard has deals with all the major labels and publishers and all of the major independent ones too. And so that's why we have 4 million titles. The holes are smaller catalogs, self-administered catalogs of sometimes, notable composers that you wish were there, but we just don't have either a relationship or any kind of pathway to get that stuff added. But, if you've got a legitimately sized catalog, yeah, contact us. ArrangeMe is as good a solution as any to get that stuff out there legally and get you paid. So that next level is kind of what we're talking about. I'm not sure you'd get an email back from licensing if you just made a request for one song.
Sure. But there's more and more artists going independent these days. And I think this is a great way for them to have another revenue stream. If they're managing their publishing business, this is exactly the kind of thing they would use.
Absolutely. 100%. And remember, print rights are administered differently than other publishing services. Like, we talk about publishing and record business, it's songs and copyrights, but then the print part of that is typically handled separately. And so, that's often assigned admin rights by companies to companies like Hal Leonard or Alfred or Music Services, or there's a lot of independent companies that administer copyrights specifically for print. And so if you don't do that, to your point, then yeah, it's a great way to get your stuff, sort of out there. But again, don't write those folks. I'll get a lot of unhappy people from the licensing department with an inroad of onesie twosie requests to add their stuff to ArrangeMe. It's got to make sense for us too, I guess is the point.
Well, while we're on the subject of the licensing department, what do I need to do if I want to publish my cool mashup of all 100 of the top 100 songs of the year? What do you do in multiple song situations?
So that's the one thing that's another big restriction for how ArrangeMe is we can't allow mashups and medleys of copyrighted material. Now you can mash up and medley PD and original songs all day long, and people do. But when it comes to copyrighted material, you can't do two songs for a mashup or medley. So a copyrighted song paired with another copyrighted song, that's not allowed. To do that, you put in a request to our licensing team, halleonard.com/licensing, I think is what the site is. You can verify that. And then you put in a request.
ArrangeMe.com, powered by Hal Leonard, is the global self-publishing platform that lets you sell your arrangements of popular songs, public domain works, and original compositions through the world's most popular sheet music retailers for free. ArrangeMe gives you access to over 4 million copyrighted titles that are pre-licensed, allowing you to create and publish your arrangements legally and hassle-free. No fees are required to participate, and ArrangeMe users have earned over $5 million in user commissions to date. Sign up free, earn money for your music, and join the world's largest self-publishing community at ArrangeMe.com. HolidayChoirMusic.com is your one-stop shop for unique and exciting choral arrangements for Christmas, Hanukkah, Easter, and other holidays. Check out our new releases for 2022, or give your choir the gift of new music this holiday season by commissioning a new work. Enter the code PODCAST at checkout to get 50% off your first order. So I want to talk a little bit more about that 10% number.
Yeah.
Because I think when people sign up for the site and they see that they're only going to get 10% of the sales price, that's a big turnoff for a lot of people from doing arrangements of copyrighted songs. And I understand why the number makes sense from your standpoint, because that's kind of been the industry standard in print publishing for a long time. But my question is, why is that rate not higher for the self-publishers? Because you're not printing physical copies of the music, you're not marketing it. So shouldn't there be a little bit of room there for us to have a bigger piece of the pie since we're doing more work?
First of all, industry standard in print publishing for physical is not 10%. It's like 2.5 to 5%. So if Hal Leonard were to hire you, Garrett, to do a songbook of whatever, show choir, your top 10 show choir arrangements, and they give you a traditional print publishing deal, you're going to get probably no higher than 5%. And so 10%, that's an extra. That's double what a standard arranger contract looks like, honestly. So when you think about it that way, it's pretty generous for a copyrighted song. The other thing to keep in mind is, when you do an arrangement of a copyrighted song, something that you don't own, it's not only not your song, it's not your arrangement. The copyright holder owns your arrangement of that song. It's called a derivative work. And so as much blood, sweat, and tears as you pour into that, avant-garde neoclassical jazz funk fusion arrangement of Bruno Mars' Uptown Funk, at the end of the day, it's not your arrangement, it's owned by the copyright holder. So we provide a path for you to monetize that and get paid a fair commission for your arrangement. But we're doing this for the love of the craft. This is not a full-time gig for very many people in the world at all. So those two things, you don't own the song, you don't own the arrangement, and the commission percentage is actually pretty fair when you consider, what a traditional print publishing contract looks like. And when you talk about the splits, I mentioned, we pay 50%, 50% for original and PD arrangements. Well, that's what the copyright holder gets. Every digital license is basically 50%. So you get 10% as the arranger, the copyright holder gets 50%, and then Hal Leonard keeps the other 40 for overhead, the site, maintenance, all the things that are impossible for us, independent arrangers or composers, the reach, the different sites access, all that stuff. It's a pretty good deal. And I'm not just saying that as the program manager. I'm saying that as an arranger. It's pretty massive. It does rub me a little wrong when I see on Facebook it says, Hal Leonard's keeping 90%. No. Not at all. We keep a fraction of that and give a pretty fair product for that money, if I say so myself. And also the service is free. It doesn't cost you a dime to use the service, and we're still paying you 10% copyright arrangements.
Well, you're certainly doing better than Spotify paying your artists.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Hal Leonard is committed to making sure everybody's paid well.
But I am glad you brought that up because people don't think about what the songwriters get. And a lot of the time, the artist is not necessarily the songwriter. So you may think, oh, Beyonce has
Correct.
so much money. And to be fair, her songwriters probably do too. But my point is there's a lot of other people besides the artists that are getting paid out of this. And that's a really good, gives you the warm feelings, doesn't it? It makes you feel good about arranging.
Yeah, man. And you're not helping the artist really. Unless they're a songwriter. I mean, you're contributing to the songwriter. I mean, Beyonce, unless she wrote the song, she's not seeing a dime of that for your arrangement, unless she has some kind of publishing or, some kind of interest, but it's legitimately the songwriter that's benefiting from this. And those are the people that are often faceless, the people that are behind the scenes that do this for a living. Some of my best friends are songwriters on Music Row, and you would know them from Adam, but they've got hits from all the people that in the country music business, so, and those guys and gals, they've really struggled since the digital streaming has really taken a hold. And it's not the 90s anymore. They're not printing money like they used to. Being a songwriter is a tough business, tough roads. So yeah, your arrangement is supporting a really talented community that needs every penny they can get.
So you have the advantage of being able to take a step back and see what all of the ArrangeMe users are doing. And so I'm wondering if you have things that you've noticed that are working really well that you wanted to share, things that composers are doing to market their music, or even the way they're arranging them.
Yeah, this is a drum that I feel like we've tried to start beating pretty consistently with our newsletter and just the way that we're engaging in our usership. Just because you put an arrangement up on ArrangeMe doesn't mean you're going to make sales. Self-publishing has the word self in there for a reason. Sheet music is sort of built on 4 tenets. There's the content creation, which is what the user does, arranging the song, composing the song, getting it to a place of acceptable quality to sell the sheet music, right? Content. There's distribution, which is what we do. ArrangeMe, we provide a way to sell it and get it out to the masses. There's marketing, which is, again, what the arranger does. You've got to promote your own stuff. And then commissions and payments, which is, again, what we do. So we kind of split the load between, it's an equitable deal between ArrangeMe and the user. And so content creation and promotion are always on the self-publisher. And so, promote your stuff on social media, spin up a website. You talked about the publisher name. That's another advantage to have a separate publisher name, because you can set up a separate social media account for your sheet music publishing business with your publisher name at all the social media accounts. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. And you can kind of have a steady drum of your new releases. And it all goes back to your presence at Sheet Music Direct or Sheet Music Plus. Obviously, your stuff is there at 2 places. You kind of have to pick one and commit, and whichever site you like best, go for it. That's another advantage we have is, like, if you don't necessarily like the look and feel of Sheet Music Plus, for example, which some people don't, promote your stuff at Sheet Music Direct, or vice versa. Pick one, commit, and develop that online presence and market your stuff. We did an interview with David Jaggs not long ago. He's a UK-based guitar arranger and composer. And he said, once you got the arrangement done, then the hard bit starts. You got to get the word out, make sure people are aware. And so some kind of marketing strategy, whether that's just simple social media or more robust, you add in a personal website into that. That's what separates the people that are just kind of doing this as a hobby and the folks that are really successful.
Do you think that distinction between amateur and professional really matters when it comes to self-publishing?
Amateur, professional, that's probably a bad way to set it. But yeah, I think, if you want to take it seriously, you get out of it what you put into it. James Michael Stevens, another one of our top users, he said something once that I loved. He said, you can't expect to make $100 unless you've got 100 charts. I thought, boy, that's great. Because it's a numbers game. You can't put one chart up and expect to get monthly sales. You've got to continuously feed the beast and get more and more up there. Because once you've done a chart, you put it up there and then it lives forever. And then you do another chart and then you've doubled your chances to get discovered and sell copies, and on and on and on. So you work on one chart at a time, but over time, all of a sudden, one chart turns into 5 charts, turns into 50 charts, turns into 100 charts. And then you've got a little, monthly income going because you've got something up there that hopefully is compelling for folks to buy. Now, that's the other thing. You've got to be writing good material. The cream rises to the top. You can't just put junk up there and expect it to sell. People don't buy that stuff. They buy good, well thought out, well crafted, well curated arrangements.
So what then do you think is the better strategy? Do you think it's similar to songwriting? Like you're trying to find that one big hit, or is it more about kind of covering the field and publishing as much as you can?
I would tend toward the latter, honestly. We've got people that do both. We've got folks that are really successful at ArrangeMe that pick one song and arrange all the life out of that song, everything from full orchestra to choir, all the way down to the simplest, one line solo instrument. And, that's what they do. And that you get a lot of arrangements out of that. And we also have people that focus on one ensemble type, saxophone quartet, brass quintet, string quartet. And they do that really, really, really well and pick songs that inspire them in that arrangement type or format really, really well. I don't know that there's necessarily a formula. It's unique to you. You pick what inspires you. And then beyond that, I say it is a numbers game. Get as much out there in the market as you can. And if you're doing good work, people are going to notice you and start saying, oh, I really love that hymn arrangement you did. Gosh, I wonder what else you have. Because that's the first thing you do, right? When you're a music consumer, they're like, oh, I really love that arrangement. What else do they have? You can't just rely on the one thing. You've got to have more. You have more to show people, to sell to people. And so, the more you have, absolutely, the more, successful you are likely to be if you're doing good work. So I say both and, but I would tend to drift toward the latter, quantity charts that is quality.
All right. So let's imagine that I'm a brand new arranger. I just signed up. I have no idea what to expect. I don't know where to set the bar. How many copies of something do I need to sell for it to be a quote unquote success? What do good sales figures look like? You have access to all the data. You know how much money we're all making, right? So like, what's a good successful title look like?
First of all, it's relative. I hate to give that answer, but I would say, first of all, the first benchmark, is it a good chart? Have you vetted it? Does it work? Is it enjoyable to play? Is it playable? Is it singable? For me personally, that is a successful chart already. I'm not sure I would chase success where numbers are concerned. If you want to do this for a living, you're going to be writing, like arrangers arrange, writers write. And if you're getting hung up on, oh, I need to be selling X amount a month or need to be making X amount of money every month, I think that's kind of getting the cart before the horse or putting the end before the beginning. And are you doing it because you love it? Are you doing it because it's what you do? And if you do it because it's what you do and it's because what you love, then, money is going to come. Like, you're going to start selling stuff because you're passionate about it. And that translates to your charts. I laugh sometimes, just online forums and everything, people that are obsessed with the nickels and dimes of this business rarely do anything, because you're focused on the wrong things. If you're focused on your work and your charts and the quality and the fact that you love it and producing good quality work, the sales will come. I promise the sales will come.
Well, and I guess that's where I was kind of going with my question about amateur versus professional, because if you're trying to make a living as an arranger, it's not enough to just publish something because you love it. And other than sales, we have no data really to gauge whether or not it was a good idea to choose that song and arrange it, because I do think with 4 million songs, you got to be really, really selective about what you choose.
Think about it this way, Garrett. ArrangeMe facilitates over 40,000 individual separate self-publishing businesses. So think about the landscape of music publishers and sheet music publishers and how varied that landscape is. And then ArrangeMe is a microcosm or macrocosm, if you want to think of it that way, of over 40,000 individual business people. A success for you in your business might be a different success than someone else in their business, even if it's the same tune, because your arrangement is going to be way different than someone else's arrangement. And it's probably going to be a whole different format. We're talking about the difference between a mixed wind quartet arrangement and then a full-blown show choir arrangement. And it's probably the same song. And so really you're talking about the markets for that chart. And
that goes back to your point about the self-publishing being important. You have to do the work to know what is going to make a difference in your area.
Yeah. And sales numbers, your sales numbers, you have access to those from ArrangeMe and nobody else's really matter. If you start noticing trends, like we've done a series of interviews with more quote unquote successful top arrangers from the arrangement program. And almost every single one of them says some version of, yeah, gosh, I did an arrangement of this song and I really thought it would be a big seller, but it wound up not doing anything. But then this one over here that I just sort of did on a whim for some other purpose has taken off and it just there's a bit of a nonsensical approach to it. You just, again, it goes back to my point of just do good work. There will be charts that you'll never ever guess that do well, that you're like, I don't know, is that great? Glad I did one. But last thing we need is another sort of mediocre arrangement of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. I mean, that is just saturated. Good grief. So if you hear this, please don't put another arrangement of that up there. You can if you want to, but the likelihood of it selling is pretty low.
Is there anything we as self-publishers can do to get our titles to rank higher on the search engines within Sheet Music Plus and Sheet Music Direct? You know, if you look at Google, for example, there's lots of data about, you know, the more content you have, the higher you're going to rank, or the more text you have, the higher you're going to rank. Are there factors like that we should be considering as we publish titles?
No. And here's where the line of delineation between ArrangeMe and our retail partners sort of comes into play. So they are their own companies. Like, I don't have any sway or say in how they work or they do their business. I can make requests. There have been a few instances where I've been able to sort of beat a drum of a consistent request, and we've been able to make some updates with our retail partners. But as far as search results go, man, I think the best thing to do is back what I said before, which is like drive traffic to your charts on those sites. Every arranger, you know, you can sort their catalog by bestseller or trending or whatever on either S&P or SMD. And the more traffic that you're driving to those particular links for your specific arrangement, the better your chances of getting placement is. You know, I don't think I'm going out on a limb, but like, traffic means something. If a page is just there and nobody goes to it, then other than somebody actually searching for that specific song title in that specific arrangement format, instrumentation, and then maybe even your name, you know, which gets really specific, right? They can find it that way within the site. But if you're driving traffic, I think that means something, you know, but it means the most if people are buying it. Beyond that, I would be way out of my depth to make any sort of speculations.
How would you like ArrangeMe users to be getting in touch with you? And if we hound you with requests for features to add to S&P and SMD, is that something you want? Is that helpful? Or is it something that's annoying because you don't have any control over what the other sites do?
To your first question, support@arrangeme.com. That's our help center. Don't just post something on Facebook and expect we'll answer it. We might, you know, we'll get there and it'll get to us eventually. But the very best way to get in touch with us is through our help center, or, you know, support@arrangeme.com. I answer those. Ella answers those. Helena answers those. We try to do a good job of making sure they don't sit too long. We're constantly churning through requests and issues and troubleshooting and all that stuff. So that's the best way to get in touch with us. I promise I have a spreadsheet way longer of features and things to address and add at the different sites and features for the ArrangeMe site itself. I promise my list is way longer than anyone else could possibly, you know, submit requests for. So typically when those things come in, it's something we've already thought about. Now, I don't want to discount, you know, someone with a genuinely good idea. So if you have an idea, just shoot us a note and say, hey, if you know, I don't know if you thought about this, but just add this to your list of features. Here's why, you know, it would be great. And if we don't have it, I'll add it. We're constantly looking forward. We're constantly looking to improve. We'll make this as good of an experience, as positive of an experience as we humanly can for our users. Because, you know, if the platform, if the tech is getting in the way, it makes for a terrible user experience. And, you know, you're not motivated to use the platform. And so if it's easy to get a chart up there, that's my goal.
Before you go, are there any big updates or features that you want to tease? You know, let's break some news on the podcast before you go.
Man, I'm not ready to break specific news, but I will tell you this. We do have some really exciting things coming in very, very soon. Within, you know, months, we're working on a couple of big things that I think people will be really interested in and excited about. And I feel like there's a big blue sky for ArrangeMe. We're growing like crazy, and stay tuned. If you're a user, you get our newsletter. Stay tuned to our socials @ArrangeMe at Facebook and Twitter, and @ArrangeMePub at Instagram. Those are our primary social media sites, and we're excited about the future.
Selling Sheet Music is written and produced by Garrett Breeze. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review on your platform of choice. You can find transcripts of each episode at garrettbreeze.com. Our theme music is written by Garrett Breeze and David Dykstra.